Let
Yep.
me tag you. I'll tag you
Yep.
on it. Yeah, I read something. I share a lot of posts at Soulogy, and where is it? Okay, and I saw this one, and it had a few things in it, but it was one of those like Lao Tzu or Chung Mei or
Oh yeah.
Confucius, or I didn't mean to pick on any specific ethnicity. It wasn't that. But and it was talking about, I think it was like three or four things that, how did they put it? Like three or four things that make life worth living. Or I think
Okay.
it was even actually connecting to really ascending. Like if you're not doing these things, you're not ascending. It was in that context. And one of them
Yeah.
was humor. One of them was
Ah.
the importance of humor and what it actually does to the body. And I
Yeah.
should say bodies, plural, right?
Yes.
So yeah, let's have a.
Yeah.
And what else would I expect from you?
Well, look, the last 3 weeks I went back into teaching 5 days a week, and if there's anything that kills your soul and your spirit faster than an institution, I don't know what is. But I have not had very much joy in my life, and not well. I've had a lot of laughter, but it felt really, I don't know. It's like the institution's weight hangs heavy.
Yeah,
There's lessons in that, obviously. I had to go back and clear some past energies.
yeah. Well, yeah. I guess there's there's always a yin yang to everything, right?
Oh, absolutely,
I, I,
absolutely.
I can't. I mean, I was in the corporate world for a long time, and of course, it has the same type of energy.
Yeah,
And then a few years went by, and I had the Great Awakening. All the stuff that
yeah,
led up to it, and I spent a couple years on the streets, and I came back, and I got my feet on the ground. And I got this offer to go back in, work out of
yeah,
my house, and and it was in commercial construction, and
yeah,
so it was a pretty cool job. I was a construction manager for a cabinet company.
yeah.
So anyway, I think it was, I don't know, it was like I had awoken. So I
Mm.
showed up with a t-shirt and a do rag on, and in this heavy patriarchal kind of thing.
Corporatized.
So I think it was within. It must have been like our biggest client. I had the biggest clients because I
Yeah,
had the stature, and biggest client, number one city, and I think it was the second time I went to the site, and I ended up getting kicked out.
oh
Yeah,
wow.
but I kept my job because they wanted a hard ass, and I knew how to play the
Yeah,
role, even though it was no longer really part of my makeup. And
yeah,
but yeah, it was 4 months I lasted,
yeah.
and
Oh, you did well.
yeah, it was. There was a lot of physical stuff. I did
Yeah,
I tried to do as much unloading myself, to save money on the projects, and so
yeah,
I got fit. I was rebuilding some muscles. I was like, in my 50s. It's like
yeah,
5 years ago. But yeah, it was very difficult to, if I would have had to be in the office, like in the
yeah.
latter part of my career, I wouldn't have been able to do it.
Well, I realized how much of my masculine energy I used to sit in when I was teaching full time. You have to survive, I think. So you shut down the feminine,
Yeah,
and I've gone back in my feminine energy, and it just hurts my heart so much to see how the system is. Oh, what's the word for it? This is another thing that's been happening in the last week or so. I have no words, but it's really restricting the soul of children. Like, yeah, it's just
well, I
I
mean, yeah, I mean, the environment speaks for itself, regardless of what the superficial arena is, right? I mean,
yeah,
yeah, because you're right though, because if I think back to my earlier career, where I was like a senior executive, so I had a lot of people under me, and then a lot of high
yeah,
level meetings, and we had like core values. It was the number
yeah,
one. It was the biggest company in the country, in the industry I was in. Very, very public oriented. But anyway, you're right. It's the feminine
mm,
side that gets suppressed in that environment. Because I remember
yeah,
we had these core values, and the core values were basically, in fairness, inequality, without hierarchy within the hierarchy. Okay.
Yeah.
That you could take any issue up to the top if you first went to who was above you. You had the
Yeah.
discussion. If it didn't work out, you just kept taking it up. They didn't actually do it. And I remember I was all about my people, and
Yeah.
we were the best division by far. And
Yeah.
so somebody was getting squashed, and the political thing took over, and I stood my ground, and
Yeah.
I ended up getting paid for it. And so I remember one of the guys that worked for me, who was really, I thought, was a pretty fair
Yeah.
and ethical and moral guy, and he was
Until.
he was better than the rest. And he called me up and he said two things to me I'll never forget. He said, one, I told you not to to take up for anybody. He was a little older than me, even though he worked for me. And then he said, why don't you just drop this whole thing? Because I actually sued him, and I had six strong federal, uh, um, I guess it would be like, charges or,
Yeah.
civil matters with them. They were all based on federal law. And he said, just why don't you just drop it and forget about it? I was like, but that's what you're talking about. Because I remember
That is exactly
that
what I'm
one
talking about.
example of many where you're going, where is the compassion? Where's the sensitivity?
Yes.
And it's not
Where's the
encouraged.
humanity?
Where's the humanity? Yeah.
Just teaching it, treating each other with respect. Like, and it's not the kids; it's the hierarchy and leadership.
Yeah.
It's people who are being driven by ego to lead, and they haven't got the emotional intelligence nor maturity to be able to do a good job of that and like empower people along the way.
Yeah. It reminds me of, I was talking to Morgan last night
Yeah.
because I saw this. I saw this post that Kirsty Lee put up,
Yeah.
and it was two videos. I think they were spliced in together, but they were like us right now, side by side. And it was a movie, and it was an Australian. I don't know what they are. I don't think it was a premier, but it was like I think y'all call them MPs,
Yeah.
and or somebody that was a head of a department in one of the states. And they were playing the movie speech and then playing the guy's speech, which was like
Yeah.
the last couple of days, same exact words, right?
Wow.
And so it made me think of those YouTube videos where they'll show like 20 different newscasters from 20 different parts of the world.
Yeah.
I know they're not
All
all
saying.
US, and they actually are saying the same script. It's
Yeah.
hilarious, but it's also pretty revealing. But going back
It
to
is
what
because
you
we generally only see one of them, don't we? So we
exactly,
wouldn't know that 20 other people are saying exactly
exactly.
the same words and we're being conditioned and programmed.
Exactly. It takes programming to a whole new level. But that's what I was thinking of when you said that, because everybody's basically programmed within the structure or the substructure, you might say, of
Yeah.
the false matrix. So everybody's pretty much scripted. And that's where I
Yeah.
think your point's so valid, because it takes the individual, the inspiration, the connection out of it, right?
It does. You can't afford to be yourself, and I think those of us that are struggling within institutions are struggling for that reason. Because
Yeah.
there's multiple ways to do what we need to do in life, and when we're being pushed into one way and one way only that doesn't feel organic to the soul, we end up with mental illness. But also it takes your life away, so you're so exhausted from fighting that you don't have the energy left to be able to live your own life.
Yeah.
So you become wholly institutionalized.
Yeah.
And that happened in 3 weeks from someone who knows better, who left the institution for that reason.
Do you know Geraldine Grace, the
I do
attorney?
not.
I think she's from
No.
Sydney. She's been on a few
Okay.
times, and she was on a few shows back and a few months ago. And she said something really interesting. She's an attorney, and she said people talk about going from 3D to 5D.
Yeah.
She said, and oh, like they're two different, the Great Divide thing, two Earths
Yeah.
or whatever. And she said, I want to go back into 3D and bring the 5D. And I thought, wow,
Yeah.
I had never thought of that before. Maybe that's what you're doing on an unconscious level
I
or
like
conscious
that.
level.
Well, yeah, and I think for some part of it, it is conscious, even though I probably wouldn't have used that language to it. But I think it is, in some way, it is like when I went back in and decided
Mhm.
to do the 5 days, it was to see, it was only for a 3 week block, thank God, and we're now on school holidays. So I can recharge and recalibrate and work out exactly where I'm heading in the next little bit of time. Um, but I think part of it is trying to bring a different way of viewing. So I know that one of the things I need to do when I go back is have a conversation with the big boss
Mhm.
about my perceptions in that 3 week block, and hopefully not to make change necessarily, but to open eyes.
Yeah.
And I can't control what happens after that. We've got a teacher shortage, so it's not likely that I'm going to be fired for speaking up. But it's all right if I am, really.
Well, I mean, I think there's a lot to be said for that, because I mean, it's one thing to go into that environment, and not to even judge the environment, but to go into a situation that is feeling, you're feeling the difference of having post awakening, and having
Yeah,
left that, and going back in, and not saying anything. Yeah.
that's
So I
it.
think,
And
yeah. So I think saying something, at least you say something now, it may not change your feel for it, and you may
no,
leave or whatever, but
yeah,
you may not.
that's exactly. Well, it sows seeds. The work that I usually do in the school is soul empowering. It's working with small groups of kids, and we've seen the results really quickly. And I've got an exceptionally good boss there. It's just whilst I stepped out of that role to take on this other one, you, like, saw the two oppositions
Right.
in
Right.
like in such stark contrast that there's no way. Like, I've got to look at, well, what am I meant to learn out of this? Why was I in this position? Number one, to know I love teaching English, like literature, but also then that if things aren't conducive to a more empowered and compassionate world, then we do need to speak. Well, I feel that no, we don't need to. I haven't got the right to give collective responsibility.
Right.
I feel the need to speak up, not to accept responsibility for fixing it, but to at least speak up at this
Right.
point.
Right. Right. Exactly. And
Yeah.
there's a lot of that going on too. And I think that, people talk about the masculine and the feminine, and,
Mm.
it's not always, I mean, it's in all of us. Every
Yeah,
part of the
absolutely.
feminine that needs to awaken in me needs to awaken in you, and same with the masculine.
Absolutely.
But one of the things I think that's coming out is that um, we need to say something, right?
Yeah.
I think that's the feminine, obviously, energy, which is
Yeah.
primarily in the feminine incarnate. But I think it's
Yeah.
true for all of us. We have to say, we have to say something, because I think your example is so perfect. Because if you didn't say anything when you went back,
Yeah.
that's not going to make the situation for you any more comfortable.
No.
If you don't say anything, I mean, if you do say something, at least you're going to be able to express yourself,
Yeah.
and then you can reevaluate.
That, well, you're also sowing seeds whenever we share our truth and our perceptions, whether the other person receives them or not, whether they're right or not. At least we're exploring ideas and possibilities, yeah.
Right, right,
And I
right.
think that's what we need to be doing, is exploring what possibilities exist outside of the ones that we already know. And we all do that in our own lives.
So, yeah,
We were meant
let's
to be lighthearted. We're not being
I was
lighthearted,
going to
Tom.
say, let's get back to the humor.
How
But
do we do that? How do we shift the energy?
you know,
Isn't that the question for the world?
well, first of all, humor. I don't care what religion or philosophy or how positive or negative or whatever anyone is. You cannot take away from the wisdom, the love, the
Yeah.
childlike wonder of humor and of laughing, and what it does
Yeah.
to the body. Yeah, so I'm with you.
And
Let's
for
get
the
back.
and I agree with you. The energy vibration when people are laughing together, you can feel the whole world shifts. And you're
Hmm.
right, physically, it brings our bodies out of stress, and
Yeah,
it
yeah.
gets everything functioning internally properly and effectively. I know after I've had a good night out with people, my stress levels and my blood sugars are perfect.
For your headaches, probably not.
No, and no
I'm
headaches
just
because you've
kidding. I
laughed.
was making a
No,
joke.
because you've laughed. You know, I
Yeah,
can't laugh. I take everything too seriously.
I've gotten better. I think maybe
At
we've all.
laughing more.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
Before I reawoke in 2011, one of the things I realized
yeah,
in that brutal honesty of the soul, right, was
yeah,
I hadn't laughed in 10 years.
yeah.
And
Jeez.
that it would have anyone that I knew, any environment for the first 40 years would have told you.
Yeah,
Todd's always smiling, he's always laughing. He's a kid,
yeah,
no matter if I was the boss or I was the father or whatever the case was.
yeah,
But I realized I didn't laugh for 10 years. And what was great was I rediscovered my laugh.
yeah.
And
Beautiful.
yeah, so it was, and I think that was another thing that post said. It was said, when you can laugh
Yeah,
in the most, I guess, I don't know if this was the word, but like when you can laugh in the darkest moments.
yeah,
And I was like, whoa, yeah, I remember this.
yes.
I remember
Because we
this.
do tend to take life too seriously, don't we?
Yeah, we're that
We
important.
forget that we're just playing roles.
Yeah. Well, it's that whole thing, human get out of the way,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. How do we make that happen? Give us the recipe for that. We play.
Yes. Well, we create, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we create. And to me, if you look at what the masculine energy within us and the feminine energy within us brings to the table, it doesn't take rocket science to figure out what we've suppressed when we've suppressed the
Yeah.
feminine part, which is going to be intuition, number one. Because if we describe those things that we just did, there is no intelligence there. It's all intellect in
Yeah.
straight lines, right? Patriarchal. And then I think, the other thing is from the intuition, you have that connection that
Yeah.
brings that communication, which brings inspiration or
Yes.
the inspiration of your devotion, of your connection into expression. So that there's a creativity.
Yeah.
So yeah, when in doubt, get up, shake about, do something, try to make something.
Yes.
And I think the other thing that the feminine brings to the table, I don't know what your thoughts are on this, because I know in that industry, at least in America, a lot of them are female, like the
Yes.
majority. But I think the other thing is collaboration.
Yeah.
I don't think we've really know what collaboration is in the structures that we're referring to. So I wonder what the collaboration where the feminine comes to the surface. I wonder what that's going to look like.
Do you know, it's funny that you mentioned that. So, my immediate line supervisor and I ran a program in literacy, an intensive program for some of our year nine, so 14, 15-year-old students leading up to some testing they have. And he's obviously male and I'm female. He sits in quite a balanced masculine feminine energy a lot of the time. And I think I've got a little bit more balance these days. But we actually co presented and we collaborated to bring this program. And it was seamless because we both go by intuition
Oh
when
wow,
we're presenting. And so and there's no ego. And it literally is, we're there for the kids to benefit them, to provide them with opportunities to grow and to understand and to learn. And it was actually a really beautiful energy in that room with 90 students and the two of us working together to bring boring literacy stuff to their awareness. And it was actually quite beautiful in terms of collaboration.
well that's
And I
great.
think that's what it could be like,
Yeah,
actually, now that you've said that.
yeah,
And that
that's
is exactly what it would look like. It's two or people coming together to share wisdom and knowledge,
yeah, yeah.
not attached to anything beyond service.
And I don't think it even has to be two people because what you're talking
No.
about is a frequency. There's this
Mm.
really famous video from YouTube, Facebook, and it's this kid. He's probably 17, 18. He's got hair the
Yeah.
color of yours, and it's like down longer than yours.
Yeah.
And he's getting thrown out of the class, and
I
he's
love
telling the teacher, you know, you show up, you have a packet, you hand it out, and you say get to work. And he starts going into this, and it became like totally viral. It is like
Wow.
6 years ago. I saw it the other day, and he's telling her, he's saying, look, these kids, you got to come in here and you got to connect to them. You got to get motivated. You've got to reach into their hearts. So this is a
Yes.
dude, 17-year-old dude, and that's what I'm talking about. It's like it
Yeah.
can't just be the sterile,
No.
generic thing. It has to bring, and that's what, that feminine, I think, brings, is that
Yeah.
compassion, is the heart, right?
The connection,
The
the
connection. There
looking
you go.
beyond,
Yeah,
going
there you
into
go.
the soul and the heart to
Yeah,
connect.
yeah.
And once you connect, anything's possible.
True. Yeah,
Yeah.
true.
Yeah. But again, there's no humor in this, Todd.
Yeah, I know. So
There's no play.
let's keep going. You know how it is in the Ascension. Sometimes you just got to get your paddle and keep paddling. Um, no, because it's been like every day is like a massive roller coaster
It
fluctuation of
is.
energies, and it's not that anything's bad. It's just like boom, boom, boom. I mean, I can go
Yeah.
back like 18 hours, and I've just been all over the place. So,
Yes.
but I was going to ask you to try to lead into the humor.
Yeah. Yes.
Which, no, I'm kidding. So, how long has it been since you stepped out for
Of what?
vacation? A vacation?
Oh, because of COVID, a long
No.
time.
Oh, it has been. Okay. So
Hey,
you haven't been. You weren't in. You were in. I thought you were in the school, and then you
yeah.
took off. Okay. How long has
Oh,
it
yeah,
been?
we're on school holidays
Yeah.
now, but then I go into my business work.
Okay, but how long has it been since you stepped away from the school for the holiday? That's what I was asking.
Oh, oh, that was Friday.
Okay, Friday. So what's that
And
been like? So what's it been like? Because I mean, the energies have been absolutely off the chart. But what's it
oh,
been like to be able to step away and feel the energies versus feeling the energies when you're in there?
holy mother of God. So, Saturday morning, we went out as a faculty on Friday night and we did laugh. And we went into Sydney, which is about an hour and a half away from us,
Hmm.
to a Japanese restaurant and sat down, just the faculty group. So, there were 7 of us, and we laughed and played a bit. And so that was lovely. But coming home on Saturday morning, I was then so wrecked emotionally. I didn't even realize, I just thought I was tired, but I was actually wrecked emotionally. And my best friend said to me, "You're all right today. You don't seem all right." And I said, "I'm fine. Do I not seem all right? Why do I not seem all right?" And that opened a floodgate of, oh my God, I'm not all right, because I've been working with this woman who cannot I cannot work with her
Right.
because we come from such different places. And she's been in my face and a bit disrespectful for 3 weeks. And I've stood up for myself, which is the first time. In the old institution, I would never stand up for myself. And so I stood up for myself with her in the moment. And each time she was rude or aggressive. And so I feel better for that, but it still takes an emotional toll because you put that armor on, and I'm not used to
Yeah.
wearing armor
Yeah.
anymore. And so come Saturday afternoon, I was a mess, crying on the lounge and miserable and back in protective mode and walls up. And only on Saturday night did I reach out and say, I just really need a hug. And then I was able to be myself again. And so Sunday I woke up with a massive migraine and went and had a massage to try and shift the energy of that and to push out the stress from the body.
Uh-huh.
And Monday and Tuesday, I've had massive days. So I feel like I'm more myself today because I've got some space to breathe today. And the
Yeah.
last 2 days, I haven't. So with the energies, like I had ran support group last night, and everyone was saying, when we do our shares, everyone is sharing the same way. And I'm running circle tomorrow night here, so Thursday night. And I know that some of the girls from Circle have already contacted me and said, I'm so looking forward to Circle Share this month because I've just been everything's been up and down, and I'm so emotional. I've got so much I need to vent and release.
Mm.
So it looks like everybody's in that place of, like you said, the energies are just a roller coaster all of the time. We can go from laughing and playing to deep overwhelm to deep misery in the space of 5 minutes.
Yeah. How,
It all serves. We know that.
how long did, yeah, of course, how long did it take you to snap to what whatever you want to call it, when you woke up Saturday morning and you were totally splintered? How long did it take you to make the connection to the situation with the lady that you were talking about?
Few hours.
Yeah, that's what I figured.
Few hours. Yeah.
Yeah,
And then it was easy to work through and process and go,
yeah,
okay, this is what I need to
yeah,
do. And so I think by the end of Saturday night, I had already resolved in my head exactly what action I needed to take, and I felt better. And
yeah,
so then the body released it on Sunday with the migraine and the rest of it.
yeah.
So I
And
tend to
so,
do my work quite quickly these days.
yeah, Yeah, I was just curious. I had a feeling that it might take a little while because I think that runs with the change of pace and
Mm,
fluctuations. You know, it's like you go from one thing to another, and there's this thing that's happening to everybody, which is like memory is
yeah,
going away. So it's like
yeah,
you're more present, and so you don't really have. And to me, it's like sometimes it takes a bit to snap to something.
yeah,
You talked about this circle. I
yeah,
know Morgan's doing groups. I think again, this is probably what you were talking about earlier in the feminine way of collaboration, right? In the circles, I mean, it sounds like even like what you were talking about with this friend of yours that when she asked you about it, that it's like a power up kind of thing. I mean, is it? How would you describe that space that you guys sit in together?
um, it's empowering in the sense that everybody is seen and received exactly as they are in the moment. And so everyone is validated for wherever they're at,
Right.
with however they're feeling, with whatever they express. And so I think it becomes empowering. So, like, I'm looking forward to Circle because we always laugh. Because even in the deepest and darkest of shares, there's that humor. Someone will say or do something, or we will start breathing. And there's one girl who comes to Circle, and if we all need to laugh and we're holding hands as we stand after deeply intense shares, we will ask her to do her orgasmic breathing. And she starts, when we're all breathing out, she's doing her orgasmic breathing, and all of a sudden, all of us are pissing ourselves laughing. And it just becomes that maniacal cackling of people who are releasing, and it's divine.
Like that. What's her name? Meg Ryan in that movie with.
Yes,
That's one of
yes.
the greatest scenes I've ever seen. I want some of that. I want
Absolutely.
what she's
Ab-
having. Um,
Absolutely.
so, yeah, like I mean, so okay, I'm picturing this because
Yeah.
obviously, as a man, I've
Yes.
never been exposed to something like this. But the ritual or the
Yeah.
process. So you have a group of people, and
Yes.
each one of them is just able to say whatever they need to say, almost like
Yes.
what you would say talking to yourself, right? Like,
Yes.
and able to share it in a space that's safe
Yeah.
because nobody's going to even have an opinion, kind of
That's
thing.
exactly right.
And and so you go through that. That must be pretty intense.
It absolutely is. And they don't people don't need to share.
Yeah.
So I've like I last circle, we I run them every full moon. So we look at what the moon energy is, and everyone sort of goes, oh, and then we share whatever it is that's been going on for us in the last month. And whilst we do that, technically everyone's meant to be dead quiet whilst people share, and we're meant to just hold space because
Hmm.
so often we don't get um, free space to just sit and own where we're at and to talk and to express without someone jumping in and wanting something or wanting to fix it.
Hmm.
And so we just hold, like, it literally is the whole group of people just holding space for someone to share. And if somebody wants advice or if they would like feedback on their share, they are allowed to ask for it
Okay.
at the end, but
That's
they've got to
cool.
share
That's
first.
cool. That
Yeah, or they
reminds
don't
me.
have to share. They can just sit
Yeah.
and listen.
Yeah. That reminds me. I guess I had been exposed to it a little bit, although it was
Would have
kind of
been.
dogmatic to me, or
Yeah,
or maybe indoctrinated to me. It was
yeah,
I had to go through AA.
yeah,
I didn't have a choice, and I had already done a lot of my own stuff. Like it was at the
yeah,
very beginning of my awakening, and I kind of did it to expedite things.
yeah,
And the number 4 is take a fearless moral inventory of yourself. So
yeah,
that one I was like I'm in, but what I was referring to was something else, like what you're talking about, something that I
yeah,
hadn't really seen before, which was they get up and they tell these stories, and just forgetting that they're all kind of the same story, and it's
yeah,
everything has its limits, but the common thing was somebody to say whatever they wanted to say, and then you would hear, "Thank you for sharing." Right?
yeah,
Like so, they were thanking that person for sharing that
yeah,
part of them. Right. And that was pretty
And
powerful.
we do the same with hands up and a whole. We honour the share that's been given, and we respect the person who has shared, who's taken courage to share.
Yeah. Yeah. That takes a lot of balls and
Yeah, it
ovaries,
does. It truly does.
which are bigger versions of
Yes,
the
but
balls.
it's a divine space. I was going to just before COVID last year, I was going to cancel running them, and I sat with a group, a very small group that night, and said, "I'm thinking of not doing circle anymore." And they all jumped and said, "No, that's ridiculous.
Hmm.
You need to do circle." I went, "Oh, all right." And so when COVID finished, I did come back and do them, and they have taken on a life of their own. So
Well,
I'm
and
literally just facilitating the space, which is beautiful. So it's
yeah.
people coming together to work through their stuff together.
Yeah. Yeah. See, I've never, you don't see that in a man's world. You know what I
Well,
mean?
so there's a lady, mine are open to men. Oh, they
Hmm.
used to be. They're not now. I never had men come except for once. So I've sort of, they're now predominantly based for women.
Yeah.
But there's a friend of mine out here runs Circle for men and women.
Yeah. No,
And I've got another
yeah.
friend who used to run Circle just for men.
Yeah. I think that's a great idea. You know, I
Yeah.
really do. I think that's thought provoking.
Yeah.
Because another thing that you said, which I thought was really cool, is you said nobody's trying to fix anything.
No.
And then, at the same time, before you told the story, you talked about your own experience, and then you just said, and what was it, Saturday night or Sunday night, I just need a hug, right?
Yeah.
So
Saturday,
I
yeah.
kind of like, to me, I can picture the space being held
Yeah.
in good numbers, several
Yes.
people or more, right? And then
There's a
uh,
minimum of 10 at mine usually. I cap it at 15 because it's too
that's,
long.
yeah,
Yeah.
I would
So, but I
imagine.
get 10 women every month.
Yeah, so that's a good number though. And so
Yeah.
so everyone says what they got to say, and nobody's running up to anybody,
No.
giving them that false kind of
Mm.
comfort. Oh, come here. It's more. I would think it's more genuine because everybody's stripped down.
Yes.
Yeah,
And at times it's uncomfortable because it's our natural inclination,
yeah,
if someone is crying, to just go and touch them and hold them.
yeah.
But at the same time, that suppresses their voice because they then feel they can't keep sharing.
Yes.
So that's the rationale behind not moving. If someone wants a hug or wants someone, like I've had some people at times reveal quite intense abuse
Mm,
things. And so they've been sobbing. And so I just go and sit next to them and might put my hand on their leg or their shoulder,
right.
but don't impose
Right.
in terms of voice. But that's only if the guides tell me to do that.
Right. Yeah.
I
And
often suppress my own natural inclination to comfort.
well, just the further, display of the intuition. I mean, if you
Absolutely.
think about it, I mean, we mentioned guides and higher self and all that. That's intuition.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, that's a nice download to take in.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me it is. I mean, because I think a lot of what's happening is, I'm learning, you know, what I don't know. You're learning what you don't know, and a lot of
Yeah.
times that does fall into the genders,
It
masculine
does.
and
And I think
feminine.
we're more remembering it rather than learning. We're remembering there are different ways and there are different avenues of moving through this life that we're living.
Yeah.
And so we remember our past lessons and because we're open to it.
What kind of pants does a ghost wear?
None. Why do they need to wear pants? They need to be free and liberated.
They
What's the
wear
answer?
they wear they wear boo jeans.
Oh my God.
I
That is
can't
such
t-
a dang joke. It is not funny.
I can't tell jokes. I
No,
can't
neither
tell.
can I.
I cannot tell a joke. I know a couple jokes. I can't say them in front of people, but in front of
Why?
a mixed crowd.
Why?
Because,
Oh, because they're inappropriate. Define inappropriate.
well, no, it's probably not inappropriate. I was trying to get us, just get us to the humor thing.
We're not going to get to the humor because we're forcing it. Whenever you try and we should know this, both of
Uh,
us. Whenever we try and force something or control it, flow is restricted or constricted and it doesn't happen, it doesn't emerge. We both know this. So why are we trying to force the
I
humor
don't
and
know.
just not let it happen organically?
Well,
And maybe we are incredibly funny just by being serious. Who knows?
intention's everything.
That's exactly right.
Oh God,
Yeah.
I wish
It's a
I
good
could.
life, isn't it?
Yeah, I wish I could remember this joke. I saw this lady tell her husband on TikTok a couple of days ago. It was absolutely
Yeah.
hilarious. I was on my floor. I was on the floor laughing. That's one.
TikTok is
That's one thing I do get out of if I how I do it. I'm going to admit it. I get on those reels and look for some
yeah.
funny things.
Got to,
And
because
there's
we've got to
some
force
yeah
ourselves to laugh sometimes.
yeah there's some funny things on there though. People do some funny things. I mean,
They do. My friend Kristen, who was on here, like she was commenting a lot last time and was mortified that I dobbed her in as being from America. But she and I believe we're serial killers. We haven't acted on this yet in this lifetime, but we're convinced that we're serial killers. And so we will often send, well, she more so than me, will send each other TikTok reels that are people serial killing. And I woke up to one this morning that was an Islamic lady, very soft looking, very gentle looking. And someone was trying to teach her English, and he would say, "What do you use this for?" And it's a picture of a broom. And she said, to sweep away the body or something like that. And then she had this word that I can't remember what the phrase was. God, see, this is why I don't tell jokes.
yeah, I know. We're screwed.
But she repeated it at the end of each one, and the person that was trying to teach her English was mortified because when they showed the cutlery in the kitchen drawer, she said murder weapon, and he said no, cutlery, and she'd say her catchphrase, and I was just pissing myself laughing in bed, thinking this is just gold.
Yeah.
And we need to laugh more at
Yeah.
life, and we just don't. People are too precious and take things too seriously, including myself.
Yeah, including me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sad.
It's yeah, and I like what you said about you can't force it. Like I think you can look for you know what I mean? You can look for it. And I think maybe when you're if you're that unplugged, maybe you got to plug in and go on the TikTok and see what you can find that's funny. But
And Facebook, because there's often funny things there. There's a lot of inspirational stuff, but there's also a lot of humor, which is fantastic. I like posting. There was a little girl yesterday, and I was gonna say fuck this up as well, but I will in the telling. But she, I had to share it on my Facebook because she's a really gorgeous little girl with brown hair, big brown eyes, pigtails, or that's how I imagine her. So I might be making that part of the narrative up. And she's talking about one of her parents says, "You're going to change the world," and she says, "No." And she says she's going to make everyone into witches and bats and vampires because she's evil. And they said, "Are you being serious?" And she goes, "Nah." But there's a look on her face and in her eyes at that moment at time, you just know she's lying and she is evil and she is going to completely decimate the world as we know it. And it's hilarious.
exactly. We're eternal souls. You don't think we've put that hat on before?
It's exactly
You
right.
don't think we put that hat on before?
Oh, I have. That's why I'm living such a karmic life this time. I've hexed a lot of people in past lives and did it quite happily and with no remorse and no compassion. So I think, as far as I'm concerned, if I hexed them, they deserved it. But apparently the gods don't agree with
We're
me.
still. I wonder what dimension that leaves. I don't. Hey, no, I'm just saying. But
All of the dimensions are one.
no,
at
I've
the
had the
same
same. I've had the same type of faint memory of like standing up for justice, doing what's right, and then basically getting engaged with. In fact, I had the lucid dream from hell. I told Morgan last night. I still haven't. That's weird how this all stuff comes to you. Yeah, I had the lucid dream from hell, which I've had these incredible lucid dreams for a period of weeks, where everything's fitting, everything's together. We're working in collaboration. It's like new earth, new earth, new earth kind of frequency. And I had this one last night that was just the lucid dream from hell. I wake up, I send her a message. I just had the lucid dream from hell, and I just knew go back to sleep. So I went back to sleep to finish it, and it ended up being the most fucking awesome lucid dream I've ever had. Yeah, I hadn't thought about it since I started the shows today. I'm going to try to write it down. I told her. But yeah. In those faint memories, I guess I would get captured, or they would they torture you, whatever they do, right? And it was so far from me that the only thing I could do was become that.
Yeah.
And I became that until it ran its course, and the compassion returns and all that.
Yes.
Yeah, so I can.
How did it feel being in that other role?
At first, it
Yeah.
it was yeah. It's weird how I can remember this stuff now, but I guess all of our multidimensionalities coming back
Yes.
online. I
Yeah.
remember going into it, going, I'm going to give you what you gave. I'm going to
Yeah.
punish you to the level that you deserve. I
Yeah.
remember that, and then I remember getting into it and going, oh, all these other things came in. Like, oh,
Okay. Like.
look what I can do, or
Yeah.
uh, losing sight of what I came into it with, and,
Yeah.
and following the pendulum to the other end, because being
How
led.
did it feel when you're in the moments of deep power and control?
Uh, I don't think I can't really say that I can remember
Okay.
uh, as clearly as some of the other things I said, but in this life, I would say,
Yeah.
uh, and I would say only in probably, and this would be pre-awakening, like
Yeah.
um, intimacy,
Yeah.
right?
Okay.
I can remember flashes, and what I remember is going like, how would you describe it? It'd be like you get into that space that you've kind of been chasing.
Yeah.
You get there. It's something totally different than you think, and it's
Yeah.
totally powerful, powerful enough to overtake you.
Yeah.
But within a short, I would say like within a short period, you just go, wait, something's not right here. This is
Yeah.
not. This is not. Even though I'm the one empowered, this is not.
Yeah.
Something's not right. I couldn't put my
Yeah.
finger on it. Yeah, and I would say I probably learned that like in my 40s,
Yeah. And
pre-awakening.
how long do you think it took for you to embody the lessons? Or are we
Well,
still embodying?
well, yeah, I would say probably still
Yeah.
embodied, but I would say it was kind of like a lot of times we go from one extreme to another. So I
Yeah.
went from that to totally checking out,
Yeah.
celibacy, just like like just totally. But then you still have to deal with the programs because changing your behavior, even if you go 180, is not really doing anything because it's still
Yeah.
there, it's still active. It may just look different, right? And so I think over time, I was able but almost like on a one on one basis.
Yeah.
Each event that entered my mind, each memory that entered my mind, I would go back, bring equilibrium, and I would say it probably took me. I'd say probably in reality 15 years,
Yeah.
which is, I guess in essence up to today. But I think from a severe or an acute, you know, let's say that's a hard thing to appraise, but I'd say probably 10, 10,
Yeah.
10, 12.
Yeah. That's interesting.
Yeah, I don't know how we got here. I thought we were going to laugh.
Yeah. Because we were
You
putting
asked some good questions. We need a backup host on this show. Yeah.
it.
You asked some good
No,
questions. I mean, I was lost in it before I even thought about what you asked me. Why'd you ask me that now? But no, I appreciate it because I think this show should be a conversation and we should go places we've never been.
oh, I thought this was a conversation. That's what I've always come in. That's why I enjoy it so much. It's
Yeah.
just brilliant.
Yeah.
It's brilliant. But I think that the whole intimacy thing is an interesting one, and it's one that I'm working through in my life at the moment of what is true intimacy and in terms of the physicality of us as 3D human beings and then of the soul aspects and where does everything sit and where do you find your balance and what does it actually mean because we know time is a construct, so how much time do you give to building things and to healing things and to nurturing things and to holding space and to creating space and all the rest of it, and where is the balance, and it's way too much overthinking. And I've been running that thought process whilst being in my school situation of being institutionalized. So it's an interesting dichotomy how we can hold many different narratives all at once that are impacting different aspects of ourselves and challenging and learning and growing and stagnating and
Mm-hmm.
going backwards and regressing and all at the one time. It's quite God, that is quite amazing. I had not realised I'd been doing that, but that is exactly what I've been doing. No wonder I'm friggin'
We
exhausted.
got we're jugglers. We're
Absolutely.
starseed light workers and jugglers. No,
Yeah.
but you know what you said earlier. If you connect it to that, uh, all those different balls in the air have the same template, and that
Yeah.
template is balance or imbalance. So it's
Yes.
power over, right, or being
Yeah.
overpowered. So
Yes. I like that.
if we take the reflections that I had,
Yeah.
and if you really think about it, and maybe not literally, but I think if people really think about it, especially when it comes to intimacy or lack
Yeah.
thereof, okay,
Yep.
you're either one or the other.
Yeah.
We've all been in the empowered state. Wow, because I
Yeah.
especially nothing against it, but women are much more. They have it much more together. Their sexual energy is much more powerful. We know that. So what I'm
Okay.
trying to say is, but they've also, had a great experience in being the submitted one, or right?
Absolutely.
But I think men can say the same thing, and we might have to think a little harder. And so
Yep.
maybe in this question of this multi-dimensional question with the different
Mm.
balls, as well as the intimacy thing that you were leading with, maybe it's to know both of them.
Yeah.
And maybe we don't have to know, like literally live it, but we can certainly in this atmosphere engage and own both sides of an equation, right?
Yes.
And really own it and feel it. That's, I think,
Yes.
within our reach, and probably actually happened in our lifetimes. So,
Yes. Oh, I absolutely would have to have, because that's the purpose of it, isn't it to explore every aspect of being, which
hmm,
means the ones that we judge these days as not being as positive as others, so that power over.
yeah. Yeah, I think we find a lot of this in our with our parents. When you wake up one day because you spend your whole life going, "I am not like my mother. I'm not like my father," and then one day you
And then
wake
you
up and go,
realise you
"Oh
are.
shit!" Or
I'm
another
guilty.
another good example is, and I'm not saying anything about any family members, nothing like that. I'm just making a point.
Yeah.
But being a little brother, so your
Yeah.
little brother, you get your ass kicked for years and years
Yeah.
and years. Uh, then you go out into the world, let's just say,
Yeah.
and what do? You think you're gonna do one or the other, but eventually the
Yeah.
pendulum's gonna swing. So then you become Billy Badass, and you're
Yes.
carrying the other. And until a moment like this, you don't even realize what you just said.
Yeah.
You hadn't understood until this moment.
Yeah.
After
And
45,
hopefully
50
you
years.
come back to balance at some point.
Yeah, yeah.
I think a lot of my life I've lived in the submissive role to everybody. So I'm the oldest sister of
Mm,
three sisters, and I took on the responsibility of all of our collective welfare as we were growing up, and I still hold on to that in part today. But it's taken me a good probably 15 years to bring some sort of balance back where I go, I am not responsible for
right,
everybody in the world and everybody in my family. I'm responsible for me and me alone, while still being part of a collective responsibility and
right.
balancing the needs of both. And understanding, though, that I'm not physically responsible for everybody directly in front of me, which I have worked, like obviously a trauma response, but that I've carried my whole entire life.
Yeah, my second wife,
Yeah.
Franco, other people I've known uh, growing up, held that role. So,
Yeah.
like, 9, 10, 11, 12, and on up, taking on what we would call like adult roles. And
Yeah.
because they had younger siblings, and that's that's not something I can relate to, but I
Yeah.
have seen that energy and that path, I guess you would say,
Yeah.
that evolution. Yeah, we're
Yeah.
really
It's interesting.
cracking up here today.
I told you, the minute we both said we need to laugh or we need to create a funny one, we've both just gone, that's going to be interesting because we're now constricting the flow and it's not allowing it to happen.
Well,
But that's meant to, you just got to trust that.
I really appreciate you showing up. I really
Yeah.
appreciate your honesty. I think that, coming out of it, we're going, let's just keep going. Like just keep, you know what I mean? It was just kind of like that
Yeah,
excited, that chatterbox ego thing. But
yeah,
I don't think it really was. I think we've stuck with it, and I'm going to say that because
yeah.
you know,
And we're
I
creating
just
our realities, so
yeah,
it is what it is,
yeah, you know,
or it is what we say it is. So we've been hilarious and we've laughed for a whole
yeah.
entire hour now, and we're just blessed to have been able to.
And then sometimes you got to do like Tom Cruise in Risky Business and say what the fuck, what the fuck. Sometimes I worry about there's so many beautiful people that come on the show, and
Yeah,
you still have, because we're living in a time now. I'm even amazed, and I used to cuss
yeah,
like a sailor, and I've really cleaned it up.
yeah.
I try not to do it too much now, but I'm
I've
amazed.
recently been
I'm
going through the
amazed.
same thing at
Yeah,
school, but it's not
I'm
working.
amazed
For me.
listening to other talk shows. I watched a talk
Yeah,
show. It was a pretty good talk show. It's a well established channel. I don't remember the guy's name.
yeah.
He interviewed what's his name, Matthias Di Stefano,
Oh, yeah.
and yeah, I was a little bit taken. It wasn't like Rogan, and there was like fuck and a few other words, and I'm like, wow. But so sometimes, I think of someone like Judith Cosell or some of these, and I say this with all due respect, the crone energy, or just
Mm.
it could be a man that's very, and I might drop a few,
Yeah.
and then I'll see like a comment they make, oh my God, or maybe I'm even with them, and I worry about that sometimes. I don't know.
Why?
I don't know why I told you that. I don't know.
Well, when I went back into school, I realised I was being hypocritical in some of my behaviour, and I decided that I was going to stop swearing. I swear like a trooper. I don't swear in the classroom. I don't swear around children.
Yeah.
And if I do, I apologise. But I don't swear at school like in the classroom, but I do in the staff room. And I realised that I needed to level up and pretend to be a bit more professional. And I use the word pretend quite intentionally there. But I started dressing more professionally. As a result, it curbed my language. And that lasted for about 3 or 4 weeks. My language was better in the
Wow.
staff room. And now I'm dressing professionally and I'm still cussing like a sailor.
Well, you've integrated the two polarities.
That's it. I've
It's a
brought them back to
perfect.
balance, is what
Yeah.
I'm thinking. I look professional, look very feminine, and then I open my mouth, and the whole illusion is shattered, and people need to recalibrate their perceptions. And
I
that's all
got
it
you.
is, perceptions, isn't it? I'm being ego driven there and a bit arrogant, but
You ever you
I
ever see those? I haven't seen one in a long time, but used to see him in the in the U.S. Used to see him in these stores in the '60s, '70s, '80s, where they would sell all the black light posters and all the stuff like that, the
yeah,
hippie stuff. Well, they
yeah.
would have these games and stuff, and they would have these balls. They'd be silver balls on a string. And they'd all
Oh
be
yeah,
and you'd
and you'd
take
hit
one
them,
and
the
it go
physics
tick.
stuff.
That's what I think.
Yeah,
Like I think there's like a silver ball in the middle,
yeah,
and because it's not 2 to 3 dimensional,
yeah,
what happens is we're always in the middle. So say like
yes,
there's a silver ball in the middle, and there's one from each direction next to it,
yeah,
and you pull one back and go boop. So
yeah,
the ball stays in the middle. We go out and experience. We come back, boop,
yeah.
and then somehow or another it's going both ways.
Abs
Yeah.
and every way. Beautiful. And that
So
is it. That's beautiful. No, it is. It's truly, I love that. That's beautiful.
no, but
Right.
so
We
this
are impacted by our experiences, but we're
yeah.
not necessarily moved by them. I like that.
Well, what I
Are
mean
we
is
moved?
we
We are
never,
moved.
yeah. Well, we never move though. I mean, we're always
No.
soul. We're always eternal. And to your point, and
Yeah.
that's why I brought it up was because at the end of the day, you know, we're the ball going out here.
Yeah.
We're I guess okay, we take off and we think we're the ball, we think that's who we are, and then like you said,
Yeah.
we're remembering, so we
Yeah.
have some semblance, we have enough to know that we are the ball in the middle, okay,
Yeah.
and for that reason and no other reason, just take a chill pill.
Yeah. Well, that's it. But we do take everything so seriously.
Yeah.
We've got a federal election coming up here. It was called last week on the 21st of May. We have no real, like you guys last election for you, we have no real viable alternatives of a good leader here in Australia at the moment. And it's so hard. Like, none of us want the current leader to, well, none of us, some people
Are
do
you
want the
in
current
are
leader
you in
to stay.
Victoria? Where are you at?
No, I'm in New South Wales, but the whole country
Okay.
has an election, a
Oh, the
federal
whole
election coming
country.
up, the whole country. So everybody will be voting on the 21st of May for the people who, like your president, our
Right.
prime minister,
Right.
will
Right.
determine the governing political party.
Yeah.
So Liberal or Labor, which is your
Which is our
Republican.
Republican and Democrat, which means you're really
Yeah,
picking the same. It's one party. It's one party.
it pretty much, because there's not much difference anymore.
Yeah.
There used to be, but there isn't anymore.
Yeah.
And we've got this whole thing of we're all taking it too seriously, where nothing's really going to shift depending on, regardless of who we vote in,
Yeah.
because you're just changing the crisis that you're having, basically.
Yeah.
There's no effective leaders anymore, it doesn't seem, in
It's
America or Australia,
it's well,
in my opinion.
it's because they're all. No, I'm not going to go there. We're not. We're
No,
not there
say it.
yet. So I mean, obviously
Say
they're
it.
all.
Yeah,
Well,
say it.
obviously, well, you know what? There can't. There's no coincidences. So I can see the daisy chain. You were talking about going back into that structure. I was reflecting on when I was in it. It's that
Yeah,
structure. We can call
it
it the
is.
patriarch, call it whatever you want to call it, and then it's just a replica of the within without. So there is a
Yeah,
ball in the middle. Everything's cool, but we're on one of
yeah,
those things. And it's
yeah,
weird because in the duality of this experience,
yeah,
where two things are or one thing is presented as two, there's
yeah,
actually the same thing going on up here. You
yeah,
get what I'm
true.
saying?
Yeah, and it's no wonder we're all nuts
Yeah.
in the human form,
Yeah. Uh,
because you're right.
well, I mean, because as time goes on, it's not only is it becoming more obvious, but it's becoming more accepted, and I think people are embodying it, and that is neutrality, but
Yeah,
beyond like cliche new ageism. Like truly being conscious of maintaining neutrality. In there are
yeah,
no exceptions, right?
yeah,
I mean, this is really not because if you choose to be in neutrality, let's say there's 10 different template experiences in our existence, and
yeah,
you choose to be in neutrality in 9, you are in duality. You are
yeah.
one side or the other. So I don't know that we have a finish line here, but we
No.
certainly have a path of trajectory, right?
Yeah. Well, do you know that what you were just talking about as I was reflecting on that as you were speaking? For me, it's a deeper awareness that my vote will matter very little on that day because there's a deeper consciousness at play and there's a deeper program or a larger program. So I battle between not battle, that's the wrong word, but I sit, that's not the right word, put any word that fits when I finish speaking in there. But it's that thing of sitting in a space where I've become more aware of me being that little silver ball, everything happening around and how that impacts, but then everything beyond that in terms of greater consciousness, in terms of outside of the human form completely. And so a lot of the things that used to cause me angst, like politics and voting,
Yeah.
I now realize that we actually have more internal control over what happens rather than our vote making, in countries like ours, making a significant difference to the way we live our lives. There are countries that would be different for,
Yeah.
but in terms of Australia, so I feel quite blessed in that I don't like that the mass consciousness, that mass awareness of programs and things happening outside or paradigms existing outside of the one that we currently live in, that there's a bigger, greater plan that we're all just playing a small role in, sowing seeds, making small changes happening, allowing our inner to come out so we can control the way life is lived here
Right.
through how we come in. Does that
Right.
make sense?
Yes. No, yes.
Yeah.
See, there's no coincidence. I see the daisy chain. So,
Yeah,
because
good.
Morgan was talking about this, she got it in a download a few days ago. So
Yeah.
it's part of what you said, leading to what she said, coming kind of
Yeah.
from what I was talking about,
I'll have to go and have
which,
a look. Yeah.
which is I don't know if she posted this. I don't think she did. This part of it, but so anyway, so okay, let me go back. So I'm with you.
Yeah.
I don't have a political opinion, but I don't believe the results from the election in the U.S. last year. I don't see how 80 million people could have voted for somebody who's not even present, and it's crazy. So there's all that
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
That's just the example of that. But if it's whether it's the politics there, the politics here, Ukraine, COVID, whatever,
Yeah.
there is a an energy of separation, number one,
Yes.
which is really, when you get down to it, the energy of war. All right.
Yes.
Now, what she pulled in, and then going to what you were saying, and even in your anecdote about work, where you
Yeah.
were not, when you were there before, you would not stand up for
Yeah.
somebody doing that to you. This time you did each and every time. Okay.
Yes.
So that's different. So in the old world, it was held up. Now, this is more what Morgan was getting. It was held up by your lack of, you know what I mean?
Yes.
And then over here, now you have introduced this new energy, which is what we
Yeah.
talked about, right? You got to say what you got to say. And what she was saying, or what she had received, same thing,
Yep.
was that, for instance, if you take Ukraine, if we have from in here
Mm.
a biased, because I'm going to call it for what it is, or a prejudice, they're actually, the you, me, we, and it that we're calling they in
Yep.
this realm, is actually taking the energy that we're projecting, which is for one side or the other, and utilizing it to structure and strengthen the situation itself.
Yeah.
If we don't do
Division.
that, if we maintain neutrality, if
That's
we
it.
balance, then there's no energy to pull, which
That's it.
goes along with, and this is going back at least 2,000 years to the references to the archonic energy in
Yeah.
the Dead Sea Scrolls, which is basically the idea that our unbridled emotions and
Yeah.
imbalance is sustenance for higher dimensional beings. Right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well said. And that's what keeps the division going. So if we take ourselves and our emotions out of the equation and we sit in a place of
Yeah.
love,
Yeah.
for want of a better word, then we're diffusing that division because in love there is no place for
They don't have
division.
any. They don't have any bricks to build.
That's it.
They don't have any bricks for the
Yes.
building.
And that's how the systems crumble.
Yeah, and that's not to be
Trust
confused.
system.
That's not to be confused with fluffy love and light.
No. No,
That's
no, no,
not to be.
no, no.
You cannot be the light, just as you cannot be the dark unless you know the
Yeah,
other one, right?
that's exactly right.
Yeah.
And
So
we are all each in every moment.
yeah, that's right.
And so when we can love our darkness as much as we love our light, and we understand and accept that both need to exist for wholeness, then we can sit in a place of love that is
Yeah,
that true essence of love, that complete acceptance and presence.
right. And so the
Is there any?
question is, if you take your example of you working with this sister soul who's
Yes.
playing a role, just as you are
Yeah.
for her, because we got to remember, she probably thinks the same thing of you as you do of her.
Oh, absolutely, she does.
So
She's
here
made
we
it
go
perfect.
again, chicken and the egg.
Yeah.
But so, like, your actions, your thoughts, words, actions on a one-to-one basis in the present as they came, you were building, metaphorically, a new neural pathway. Like,
Yes.
my question is, like, when we do that type of thing as an individual,
Yeah.
does that truly have the power to change whatever our unconscious creation has brought us, such as
I
Ukraine, COVID, whatever?
Yeah. I think it does when we share our truth, when we share our lived experience and our learned experiences
Mm-hmm.
as we grow and evolve. And I think that's where the internet has become vital. I know the internet is not perfect, but it does provide a platform for
Yeah,
people to share their lived experience and their connected experience with more people. And I think that shifts
yeah,
the energies. But I think it's going to take time. I don't think it's like that, unfortunately, especially in terms of Ukraine and COVID. But we see a gentleness coming in for the COVID stuff now. Like, people are no longer as extreme about it. There's not as much well, here where I live, there's not as much nastiness anymore. There's not as much fear-based stuff. It's like, oh, I can't come to something because I've now got COVID, so I'm in isolation for 7 days. And we go,
Right.
okay, no worries.
Right.
But
Right.
no one freaks out and goes, oh my God, was I with you 2 days ago? No one does that, or no one seems to do, not en masse do people seem to do that anymore, whereas they were.
Yeah. I think. Yeah. Well, because in the internet's such a good example too, because it's physical, like
Yeah.
you know, and so like I hear what you're saying, and I think, and the reason I referenced the internet was because even when people are saying, it's like helping us to discern, or it's validating or giving us an exercise in, through repetition to learn to have confidence in our intuition and
Yes.
telepathy. And
Absolutely.
so if you kind of extrapolate that to all those range you got over there,
Yeah.
and
Oh
where did that come from, and why did it
God.
take the government 3 weeks to get out there, and why is it, like came out, so, and I'm not trying to say, oh, this happened and that happened, this conspiracy or this. What I'm trying to say is that even what you're trying to hide based on what's projected,
Yeah.
the truth is always coming out because there's the same pattern, right? There's the
Yes.
same pattern. And I think, people are at first unconscious and now becoming conscious of the little man behind the green curtain in The Wizard
Yes.
of Oz, that Toto found.
Yes. Well, you can't
Yeah.
not be anymore because there's
Mm,
too much that is extreme.
mm,
It's not that things are gentle anymore. Like, we've had 3 lots of floods in the space of however long now. Um, and you've got to ask what the deeper purpose in all of that is, as an individual as well as for the collective. And I think that anyone that says there is nothing at play here beyond weather patterns and beyond people wanting there to be conspiracies, I think that's an ignorant viewpoint these days.
mm,
I don't think we can. I think it's very obvious that there are systems or paradigms in control here that others have come to expose, for want of a better word.
mm-hmm.
That's putting division back in there, but it just seems to be the reality. There's so many extremes happening in our world. Like in Australia alone, came from extreme drought 3 years ago into flooding, then into COVID. Oh no, then bushfires, then flooding, then COVID, then another round of COVID, then flooding in between. And it's just, we've had, and then 3 lots of flooding in the last little bit of time. Like, it's insane. There's so much, it's nothing's moderate or temperate or gentle anymore. It's all
Right.
bang, 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 bang. And then our individual lives seem to be echoing that roller coaster.
Yeah.
And it's like that can't be coincidental.
That's what I'm saying.
They end up feeding into each
That's
other.
what I'm
But I know,
saying.
I agree with you
So
100%. It's not
so whether
coincidence.
whether it's uh, orchestratedly
Mm,
man-made, a man-made
yeah,
orchestration, or whether it's divinely orchestrated, it really is one
yeah,
and the same anyway.
it
Um,
is.
maybe it's just the contemporary now experience that we always have experienced. Say I was a carpenter. 2000.
Yeah.
No, that's not a good. Jesus was a carpenter.
Well, no, so that's
Let's
really
say
funny because in my
that.
head I'm going, there's got to be biblical allusions and references here.
Well, yeah. So, okay, say I'm a merchant 2,000
Yeah,
years ago, and
yeah,
I have a wife and I have 2 kids,
yeah,
and I'm subjected to a caste system of some sort,
yeah,
be it religious or from the government, and
yeah,
I'm considered on the low end of society, and there's all this obvious fuckery going on.
yeah,
What's going on in my head? Where am I at? Am I going within? I mean, were we doing it then? I believe we were. Maybe there's
yeah,
just an amplification of that. And, but there, and so I get that part and I can't help but, like, I just saw this comment. I didn't know what the guy was talking about. He's obviously from Australia. He said, ScoMo must go. I didn't know what
that's our
ScoMo.
prime
I
minister.
know. Now
He's
I
our
get it.
current prime minister.
Scott
He's an
Morrison. Yeah.
absolute,
So
yeah,
so there's still a part of me that looks for one of those guys to go down, okay?
Mm.
Or some, and I'm not saying this is going to happen or has to happen. Maybe it's all done in the energetic field. Maybe I don't know. But or the other thing would be to see a bona fide person, probably be a female, that carries the energy that you were talking about, like in the collaboration with your friend
Yeah.
when you presented that thing, or somebody that would come and have such a, I guess, like I wasn't around when Gandhi was around, but say Martin
Yeah.
Luther King or Robert Kennedy, having that open
Yeah.
heart that actually appealed to masses to the
Yes.
degree of, say, Trump or beyond Trump. Something where they
Yeah.
just that totally didn't polarize the world, but just made such a
Yes.
shift and a difference that they, I guess maybe it would take a Magdalene or a Jesus. I don't know.
Mm. Showing a different way is all it's
Mm,
doing.
yeah.
And I think as we all and do that and be authentic in our own lives and show different ways in our own lives and different ways of being that are more organic for us, I think that energy spreads. Like,
Yeah.
I was talking about that circle. I've got people that come to circle that if I pass them on the street, I would never believe that they would turn up in my lounge room for circle because
Really?
we have preconceived notions of who would go to these things.
Could
People who
you
look like me go to these sorts of things, but it's not just people who
people
look
that
like
look like you, people that look like gypsies,
yeah,
hippies?
yeah,
Could you
but a
imagine?
serial killer's in disguise.
Maybe Soulogy needs to do a different, excuse me, a different platform, or say another platform,
Mm,
another type of show on the platform,
yeah.
and we can make it like,
Interesting you're moving into creation now. Think about where we started today and joy and how we do that. Yeah. And what's going on
yeah,
with your throat chakra again?
I don't know. I guess it's needing to
We always
expand.
get to this point, your throat chakra goes. What's that?
So what I was thinking was we get
Yeah.
like 10 of us together,
Yeah.
and each one of us, and we film it and go
Yeah.
live, and each one of us is a prominent public figure, like that guy that said that could be ScoMo,
Yeah.
I could be Biden,
Yeah.
and we have a circle, and
Yes.
we each like connect with that
Oh.
person and spill our guts. You know what I mean? Like,
Oh.
what do you think? I mean, really, talk about.
That would be brilliant.
But wouldn't that be brilliant for the world to see? For even one
It would
person,
be. For exploring the other.
yeah, yeah. Could you? Yeah,
That would be amazing.
or you know what I mean? Just to kind of like show what would happen if, like, could you imagine Scott Morrison or Donald Trump or Joe Biden or somebody getting up on the cameras and the cameras couldn't do anything about it? Everyone's got their phones and
Yeah.
just laying it out transparently. Like that would be earth shattering.
It absolutely, and it would be interesting to see what came, to see if they were allowed to be authentically and organically themselves, what would actually come out.
Yeah,
And would they be willing to listen to the other views and the other people? It,
yeah.
it would be
Where
magical.
they turn off the persona.
Yeah.
It'd be like
And just
asking. It'd be like asking Biden, "How do you feel about your, your son
yeah.
situation? How do you feel? How does that really make you feel?" Because, like in the real world, those things happen all the time in our families.
Yes.
Be they somebody stole this, or somebody had a drug problem, or somebody was
Yeah.
in. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
that'd be nice.
Because at the end of the day, they're all human, just like the rest of
Absolutely,
us.
they are. That's what
Yeah.
keeps me alive every night.
I don't know if you've ever watched The Newsroom, which is an American show. What's his name? Aaron Sorkin
Yeah,
wrote it. And the first episode, right in the first 5 minutes, the anchor Will McAvoy is questioned in a university stage panel thing. And the guy who's interviewing says, "We just want a real moment of you,
yeah,
not this fluff that you come around with, but a real moment and real perception of what you think." And he ends up giving it, which creates the storyline for the rest of the 3 seasons. But it's a really powerful moment in how image constructed we become,
yeah,
and we fit the roles that we perceive we're expected to play, and we see them through that, and it becomes hard to know where the person starts and the role starts and ends and all the rest of it. And I think when I stepped out of teaching the first time, I lost that role. And it's interesting the parts of it I've chosen to pick up this time consciously.
Yeah.
And then the parts that unconsciously slap me across the friggin' head.
Yeah, me too. I mean, hell.
Yeah.
And you know what? And that's the thing. There's nothing to be sorry for, right? I mean,
we're all learning and
you
growing.
know, you just do the best you can. And, you know, I think the truth is the truth. And the truth is really at its root, regardless of the adage, the road to hell is paved with good intentions, although that's a very interesting adage. But intentions, like, I don't think anyone is in these circles, and I would even expand these circles to the vast majority of the world. I don't think anyone, maybe I'm on the wrong planet, but I think people actually have an innate ticker, you know, of growth. I'm here to grow. And maybe it looks like from the outside looking in that somebody hadn't learned a lesson their whole life. And maybe it looks like somebody else's speed racer. But, you know, like, I think what you're saying is true. We're here. All 8 billion is here, including those sister, brother souls that are playing roles that are there for a reason to create, you know, polarization, create, you know, triggers.
And opportunities. But opportunities, because ultimately triggers and polarization is just opportunity.
Yeah.
It's opportunity to explore and to grow and to move and to shift or to stay the same.
Yeah.
Because we all do serve a role, I think.
Absolutely we do. And we're the only one that can do it.
Absolutely.
So
absolutely. Have you ever watched or seen, there was a guy, Jeffrey Robertson, and he did a show in the 70s and 80s called Hypothetical?
No, never did.
No, what he did in that was he would give a hypothetical current contemporary issue, and he would have different people there playing different roles to sort out this issue and give different perspectives. It sounds very much like what your new show is going to be.
I'm just making that up.
Yeah, I know, but I like it.
But, you know, but actually, I was kidding, but actually, you know, like,
getting to a point, word is a joke, except truth presented in a different way.
You're right. And see, one thing I have noticed is the way things are available. I keep using the word daisy chain because, you know, you make those in school and the hands are all connected, right, of the figure. You know what I'm talking about? And
absolutely. We used to make them here and sell them in our street.
Yeah. Oh, really?
Growing up. Yeah. Well, I loved when you first mentioned. I went, "Oh wow, there's a flashback to my childhood."
Yeah. I don't know if I ever made them or not. No, my sisters did, but
we made them every summer.
So they're like, just like what you were talking about earlier. Yeah. Like if I look at Soulogy, that's one thing I do see over the years, be it in the group or on a show, people coming out, and that's not, you know, coming. Okay, so and so came out. Right. Well, that sounds like something has finality to it. That's a beginning, right? I mean, that continues to happen for all of us. We you know, one of us might go back to work and, you know, figure out that there's a whole bunch of stuff they hadn't looked at because they, you know, brought, you know, whatever it is. And maybe that's something that you're doing in your circle or like Morgan's doing in her groups. It may be in a different way, but it's certainly both require, because that's more of like a group kind of, I guess you would call it like a group meditation where, you know, but in both cases you have a totally open field and therefore a totally open heart and vulnerability gets left and authenticity gets left because it's an attempt for straight transparency. Yeah. That's a pretty new place, I think, on the earth. For us at this time.
For us at this time, I think it is. I think, though, at the end of the day, it's what we all crave all of the time and always have.
She would make things easier. She would make things easier. It's like that saying where they say, if you could see everybody's soul, you would be, the world would be great. Well, maybe that's the whole thing. Maybe we're supposed to get past ourselves and maybe that's, you know, I don't know. What the fuck?
Oh, I do. I agree with you. And I think, I think that when we share, when we're sitting in our own truth, whatever that is. Like our truth is this today, tomorrow it
Yeah.
might be different. We might have
Yeah.
something else come in and we go, oh, okay, so what resonated with me yesterday no longer resonates. I've shifted beyond that or away from it. And that's okay. But I think it's in these moments of shared connection and
Yeah.
sharing of experiences and wisdoms. Like we live on different ends of the world, and there's commonality in what we say, there's commonality in the language that we use.
Yeah.
And yet we've now met each other 3 times. So it's like that collective experience impacts the individual experience, but the individual experience also impacts the collective because it's all symbiotic.
Yeah.
It all
Exactly.
just
Exactly.
interweaves.
It's kind of like you're at the head and I'm at the ass, and
Yeah, I'm happy to go with that.
whatever you eat and digest affects me.
Absolutely, but it's true. David Suzuki, I saw him at Wollongong University. We took some kids down years and years and years ago, and he was speaking, and he's such a charismatic speaker in conservation and the rest of it. And he stood on the stage, and I'll never forget this. And my memory's crap, so we know that if I remember something, it really did impact me. And he said, I want everyone to take a breath in and I want everyone to breathe out. And we all did that. And he said, now I want you to think about the fact that you have just breathed in, as you've breathed in again, everybody else's breath. And all the kids went, oh, but it is that realization that we are all more infinitely connected
Yeah.
or intricately connected,
Yeah.
both, than we first think we are.
Yeah.
There's more similarity in the human condition than there is difference or divergence.
Absolutely. Absolutely there
Yeah.
is. Yeah.
Yeah.
I got to tell you, I was totally effed when I got on this show. I wasn't totally effed. I was just
Yeah.
had a lot of experience, energetic fluctuations in the last 18 hours, and I really appreciate that. You
Likewise.
allowed and accepted, and we.
Oh, dude.
Yeah.
I've been looking forward to this because this is my ticket back into who I am today.
Ah.
That's how I intended for me. It was like, this is good. This will be my ticket back into being me.
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah, it's always.
I saw this other meme.
You saw what?
I saw this other meme, and
Yes.
it was like Winnie the Pooh, right?
Yeah.
And it said,
Without his pants.
yeah, that one. Winnie the Pooh was wearing a whatever and no panties. It said panties, no panties,
Yeah.
and something. See, I can't remember either. I need to tell you about the ones where there's no words. So there's this one meme that's it's a pier going into a pond or a lake, and it's these two naked old people.
Yeah.
And they're probably, based on the number of wrinkles, I'd say probably 70 years old.
Yeah.
And they're holding hands, and their backsides are to the camera, and they're jumping off of the pier into the water.
Divine.
That right there. That's love. That's humor. That's fuck it. That's
presence.
That's life. Yeah, I mean that's living. You
Yeah. That is. I love that. That's beautiful.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna get that framed and put up here.
Yeah. I think so. Oh, beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Oh yeah, nice day, Tina. Thank you so much. And
That's right. Thank you.
yeah, it's yeah, I feel better. I feel
That's
good.
me too.
Yeah.
Me too. And I look forward to the new show.
Well, I'm not doing it by myself. We're gonna.
Oh, I'm happy to come on board.
Okay. Well, I you know what? I'll talk to.
I'm sure you won't have any shortage of people who would be willing to come on board.
I think,
it's like
you
a
know,
summit.
I mean, think about it. Yeah, like to actually have I think for men it would be fantastic.
I think so too.
I think it would be one of the most ballsiest things
Yeah.
I've ever done, and could speak for most men. I just got to tell you, to have men do it was one thing. To have men do it openly with no bullshit, and make that clear. Like if you're not going to show up and reveal, then don't show up, and maybe next time, But
Do you know the first male-female circle I attended ever? So there was equal males, equal females, there were still more females. The males came with the intention of being more authentically vulnerable than the females. The females us women were not as comfortable in that circle, but the men brought it, warts and all.
So do you
It
think?
was such inspiration.
So I'm curious, like, Do you think that? Wow, that's really trippy. So
Mm,
this is like an inverse here. I can see it because I'm going to speak from my perspective as a man,
yeah,
being functionally as a man in my life, through different atmospheres. So like, in other words, if half the men that showed up that were going to be open that you saw were uh, being met by men, would
yeah.
they have been as open? And vice versa, had the women showed up and they weren't men on the other side, would they have been
Yeah.
more open? See?
Yes, the
Yeah.
women would have been. The men, I
Yeah.
don't know. I can't speak to that, but that's an interesting question.
Yeah.
We have there's a group in the local area I live in. I've obviously not been because I identify as a female this lifetime, and it's all men getting together. And from all, I've got a friend who occasionally goes, and he says they're amazing. They are just men sitting there being men together, safely and sharing. So I
Yeah.
think it's possible.
Yeah. Maybe there needs to be same sex to start.
Yeah,
Yeah.
potentially
Yeah.
or
All right.
not.
Or not. Might as well go for the gusto, right? Go for
That's
the grand
it,
slam.
right from the beginning.
All right. I'm heading out.
All right. Thank you very much.
I'm
Big
looking.
love.
Hey, I'll see you again in 20. We'll see you again soon. Whatever.
You will. Happy Easter if we celebrate that.
Okay. Yes.
I
Resurrection Day.
don't.
I don't either, but Resurrection Day. We'll call it that.
That's
Every
exactly it
every
for all
day's
of us.
every day's Resurrection Day.